I think the biggest challenge facing Austin today is keeping it affordable for citizens that have lived here for a long time. Unfortunately, what we've seen with recent city council actions is to give out a lot of corporate welfare in the form of corporate incentive packages to major corporations that really drains our natural economy's ability to prosper and provide job opportunities for our people here. We saw recently $250 million in state grant funds authorized for Formula One. We saw a huge development fee waiver given to the Marriott Hotel downtown, and most recently saw an $8.5 million tax rebate given to Apple, one of the wealthiest corporations in the world. And it's really shameful that this has been going on in Austin and all these miniature bailouts, which really replicate what our federal government has been doing, is really hurting our economy and hurting Austin's ability to keep things affordable here. And we're already seeing it with our electric rate increase and various other factors that are really going to negatively affect our quality of life here. What I see it as is really an abuse of power in the sense that the government should not be a manager of economic growth at all. It should let the free market work and decide these sorts of decisions. um, Instead, all government should really be is a mechanism for protecting our rights. But when it's distorted and when it's used to give special deals and basically rebates and subsidies to corporations, it really abuses the public trust and really does not use its resources very wisely or effectively. We've seen a real increase in the push for city projects that really do nothing to improve our quality of life here. We saw the Waller Creek Tunnel project, which is being built right now, pushed through, where they're creating a storm drainage sewer tunnel basically through Waterloo Park, carrying that water down into the Colorado River, and it's costing over $60 million to the taxpayers to create a sort of new version of the San Antonio Riverwalk here in Austin. They think that this will stimulate growth, that they'll be able to build and develop around the site on Red River Street, downtown, and be able to use more corporate incentive packages to bring in density development. So it's trying to direct basically how Austin grows as an economy. And as we've seen with such projects as the light rail, it's really a failure, and it's a shame that it's been going on because it puts taxpayers on the hook. Well, I actually oppose all rate increases, and I think the city council is trying to make our citizens believe that it's inevitable, with the specious reasoning that it hasn't been done in 17 years. But for me, that's not good enough. When we look at what the city has done recently with the general fund transfers and how they squander 9.1% of the energy company's revenue on things that are entirely non essential and non energy related, I think it's terrible that they would come back and say to the people, "Hey, we have the $75 million deficit. You're going to have to foot the bill for it." When these general fund transfers take up $105 million a year, and basically what happens is the energy company gets revenue, and instead of spending it on general functioning of that public utility, it's spent on other things like we had $50,000 given to sickle cell anemia research, $6,000 for the Austin Chamber of Commerce Awards, and also $8.5 million given away to the Economic Growth and Redevelopment Services Department in the city. So it's really been used as a cash cow for the city in a entirely inappropriate way. And if we just stop that altogether, we could prevent a rate increase. And that's something that I've advocated for. In addition to the general fund transfers, they just committed funds for a 25-year period for three different wind turbine contracts on the Texas coast. I think going to renewable energy is a great thing, and it's something we should strive for. But these sort of accelerated projects, when we're already facing a major deficit, is a real problem, and it's going to put taxpayers on the hook for $75 million annually for the next 25 years. And this is the kind of mismanagement of funds that we've seen with our public utility that is really not been fair to the people of Austin, and it's something I want to change. I think we need to work with the existing resources we have and work to improve those, which means making our bus service more efficient, adding more routes. It was our former mayor, Tom Miller, who in 1940, over 70 years ago, when the rail tracks were torn up in Austin, that he said, "We've now moved from the antiquated the rail or the trolleys to the modern, the bus. Buses are mobile, routes can be changed. It's much more efficient way of moving people around. And what we've seen today with the red line light rail is that the ridership is only recouping 3% of the operating fees. Basically, we're having people on the bus subsidizing a very limited amount of riders on the rail, and I think that's not fair. They recently voted to extend the red line hours, I think, till midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. It's going to cost us over $5 million. And if you think about where that money could have been put into increasing our bus efficiency, adding more night owl routes, which is really what the people of Austin want and what they're saying is important to them, that's the direction we should be heading in. In addition, urban rail is included in the Imagine Austin comprehensive plan, will require in targets basically this centers approach where the city council wants to give a whole new round of incentive packages to certain developers willing to develop densely along rail corridors. Again, I think that's a contrived way to go about improving the economy, and it's the wrong direction for Austin. It's going to make us basically tear down entire parts of our city and rebuild it in a new form, and really destroy the Austin we know and love. So with urban rail comes a lot of other issues as well, and I think it's a push that should definitely be stopped here in Austin. I do support single member districts, and I do support the 10-1 plan, as you mentioned. What we have today is an at large system, which basically makes elections be controlled by big money interests that are able to fund campaigns and are able to get out their message citywide. I see reducing constituencies into smaller units as a great benefit to the city. Instead of having to represent 800,000 people, if a council member was focused on its own geographic area of 80,000, it would make a big difference in answering to the needs of the community that lives in that area. I think it's important also with the 10-1 plan to have a citizens redistricting commission that actually draws the lines of the districts so we don't have politicians gerrymandering areas and including neighborhoods and not natural makeup of neighborhoods in certain geographic areas. So that's also an important aspect of it. But I think we need more representation on council. What we see today with 6 members and a mayor obviously has not been representing the interests of certain areas of our community. And I think if we move to a more neighborhood based style of representation, it will greatly benefit our citizens. Austinites for Geographic Representation has been doing a great job circulating that petition, getting signatures to make it a reality and to put it on the November ballot. So I see it as something that's been supported by many community groups. I see that the Republican Party has signed on in support, the NAACP, a lot of disparate groups that are really just concerned about having effective representation at the council. And I do believe that having more members on the council will make our city government more responsive to the needs of our citizens.